can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond, Kizito. Good evening. On Spectrum tonight, how relevant is insurance to the Ugandan agricultural sector, which is grappling with many human and natural bottlenecks? Agriculture is still the backbone of the Ugandan economy, despite growth in other sectors over the years. This sector employs close to 80% of all Ugandans, providing not only household incomes but also food that sustains the population. This sector faces many constraints, and each year many acres of gardens or farms are destroyed by natural calamities and pests. This situation is becoming tougher given the rapid change in climate, largely due to global warming. Crops are mainly exposed to droughts, floods, wind or even hailstorms and pest infections. Other crops like maize, sugarcane, sorghum are often exposed to fire, which is spread from bushfires during the dry season. To address such problems, the insurance industry has come up with a policy to mitigate and also provide the sector with a lifeline. The Insurance Regulatory Authority recently approved the agricultural insurance product for managing risks in agricultural production for both crops and animals for the commercial and rural farming communities. These products are designed to minimize the effects of adverse agricultural risks, particularly extreme weather changes, which lead to financial loss for farmers often. The products will reduce the effects of unpredictable risks on agricultural production, allowing for the recovery of monetary losses for continued investment in agriculture. Now, some parts of Uganda face perennial hunger situations, and currently poor yields and the scorching sun has led to a famine situation in Karamoja and other parts of northern Uganda. Other parts of the country are reporting livestock diseases that are threatening to wipe out animals. So tonight we look at how the insurance sector can help in sustaining the agriculture and what exactly the farmers need to do to be able to benefit. Our guest tonight, Mr. Newton Jazire, Managing Director at the Lion Assurance Company Limited. You're most welcome, Mr. Jazire.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We're also joined by Mr. Gumisiriza, Lobby and Advocacy Officer at the Uganda National Farmers Federation. You're most welcome, Mr. Gumisiriza.
Thank you very much, and good evening, listeners.
And Ms. Mariam Nalunkuuma, Communications Officer at the Insurance Regulatory Authority. You're most welcome, Ms. Nalunkuuma.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, our listeners.
Now, what's this policy that insures agriculture?
Agriculture insurance. Agriculture insurance is has always been a risk business. Unlike other industrial sectors, it is subject, like you said, it's subject to different vagaries, heavy rains, hailstorms, floods, pests and diseases, a number of vagaries, natural calamities. Now, when you talk about agriculture insurance, we are talking about a risk management tool that is there to help the farmers. The farmers have had their gardens, and they are not protected. At the end of their yields, they are not harvesting whatever they had planned to do. Now, agricultural insurance is here to protect, to provide financial protection to this farmer, such that at the end of each harvest, or at the end of their season, in case they've lost whatever they've planted or whatever they've harvested, is at least compensated by the insurance company. This is what agricultural insurance is all about. It's there to protect the farmers against any financial loss incurred.
Well, how does it work broadly? A man might decide to plant crops off season, away from the season, and guaranteed losses. How would you shield insurance companies against such things?
In the number of agricultural insurance products that are provided, usually the insurance company provides the cover at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, in a way that the farmer does not plant crops where they don't expect adequate rains, that they only provide cover where they also expect that the rains will be adequate. Where the rains are inadequate, they don't provide you cover. They advise you not to go into planting because they anticipate that you will make losses. So they advise you on what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Caleb, what ails Uganda's agriculture broadly? Well, what's the problem with our agriculture broadly?
Yes, thank you. Agriculture is risky, as Mariam has said. But the risk...
Well, I'd like you to give us a broad perspective. Is it because of poor seeds? Is it because of poor breeds? Well, what is it? Is it because they don't use fertilizer? Is it because they don't irrigate? Broadly, if you want to take it to the next level, what would you deal with?
A number of factors. First of all, starting from inputs, agricultural inputs, looking at the seeds, seedlings, the fertilizers, etc. First of all, we don't have quality seeds. We don't have quality seedlings. Most of the seeds you see in the markets, in the shops, if you look at them critically, 50% are actually adulterated. They are fake. And so you start the losses from there. You plant them expecting that you have planted good material. At the end, the germination rate is about 50%. That's the starting point. 2, fertilizers. We are the least users of fertilizers in this continent of Africa. If I give you an example, if you go to Western Uganda and you take their fertilizers, even farmers will not know what they are and what they are for. Why? We are not using fertilizers because they are not accessible. Secondly, they are very expensive. And thirdly, we've not done much to promote their use. Thirdly, we have agriculture depending on weather. And with climate change, we are seeing the results of that. As I speak now, I think this year we've all seen what has happened, the drought all over the country. Maybe some parts of the north, but the rest of the country is bad off. So those are some of the challenges. But also these associated with the limited and ineffective advisory services. Yes, we have the NADS program and we have other civil society and NGO organizations that are providing advisory services, but really they are not covering all the farmers and they are not effective. The other thing is that our soils have really become old and exhausted. So we should move from thinking that we can continue to do things as we used to do and farmers get to a level of improving their soils using other means. So those are some of the issues.
And how is the sector structured? Is agriculture zoned so people in Kawale grow Irish potatoes, in Karamoja they grow coffee? How is it structured? You have farmers who specialize.
The zoning stopped on paper. The government, some time back, I think around 2007-6 there, did the agriculture zoning, but it stopped there. They did not move forward to do sensitization of the farmers and tell them that this region or this zone is for this crop or this animal or whatever. It stopped there. So it was not implemented. So what is happening now, everyone does grow what they feel like growing, what they used to grow, what their great-grandfathers used to grow in that area is what they are trying to do up to now without that guidance.
All right.
So it's a problem because in some areas now, looking at ecological factors and generally the environmental factors, things have changed. So there is need to guide farmers in order to produce what is relevant in such areas. So we are having farmers doing what they think they should do in specific areas and not guided.
They're doing it on their own, as though there's no government. Yeah. Where is agriculture most vulnerable?
From an insurance perspective, we believe that agriculture is more vulnerable as far as the water element or as an ingredient is concerned. They say that there's too much water or there's lack of enough water. Whether you're in crop farming or livestock farming, you still need water to get your output right. Right now we are talking about the drought that my colleague was talking about. Again, it's mainly because there isn't enough water. So at the end of the day, that's why us from the insurance perspective, when you look at the agriculture production and the farming business, and we say what is the biggest risk, we look at it as lack of rainfall or too much rainfall. And I think just this year, what happened in Kasese have indicated the issue that too much rainfall is also an issue. And what is happening in the rest of the country also indicates the same issue, that lack of rainfall can also be a major disaster. And given the weight of our food in the inflation basket for the country as a whole, it's critical that if we have to keep inflation within the targeted 5% or just above, we need to look at agriculture farming business seriously.
And how can this be helped?
My colleague talked about the risks that they face: poor seeds, adulterated seeds that come to their farms. All this is hinged on one thing, that the farmer does not have the financial muscle to deal with who they have to deal with. They know who are the genuine seed suppliers. They know where they can get proper hoes or plows. They know where they can buy all the farm implements they need, genuine ones, they know. But because they don't have an option, because of the financial weaknesses that are in the system, the farmer does not have the financial muscle to access the original stuff that is available in the market. It's not like those who sell original seeds are not available. They are there. Whether it's Uganda or even in neighboring country in Kenya, those things can still be brought in. So what we are trying to do as insurers is that by bringing some insurance into play as a risk management tool, that sort of like provides the farmer with some collateral to approach the bank, so that they are able to go and get the monies that they need to finance their business, in terms of buying the original things, not pirate seeds. So yes, I think from that perspective, once the farmer is properly stabilized from a financial point of view, they'll be able to produce within the same hectare or within the same hectarage, double their production. He just gave the example that in Africa, Uganda uses the least amount of fertilizer per hectare, and it's true. I think even the amount of arable land under irrigation in Uganda is the least again. So we have been endowed with a lot of good rains over the years, very good soils. But at the end of the day, what we should appreciate is that with all these changes, I mean, the other day I was sitting at my house and I had a bit of earthquake. I think you also felt it all over Kampala. That clearly shows you that the climate or the situation is not going to remain the same going forward. What we need to do, the government, the private sector, the farmers, federations, they need to come together and really work on this to make sure that going forward the anticipated risks are sort of like managed in a prudent way. It's not sustainable to continue farming the way we are farming right now.
All right, well, this is Spectrum listeners on Radio 1 tonight. How relevant is insurance to the Ugandan agricultural sector, which is grappling with many human and natural bottlenecks? Our guests tonight, Mr. Jazire, Managing Director at Lion Assurance Company, Mr. Gumisiriza, Lobby and Advocacy Officer at the Uganda National Farmers Federation, and Ms. Mariam Nalunkuuma, Communications Officer at the Insurance Regulatory Authority. You'll be able to call in and discuss with us this topic tonight. Mariam.
Edmond, I just wanted to add something on agriculture insurance. As we talk about agriculture insurance, we also look at livestock. We're not only looking at the crops. We look at the livestock. We've read in the media and we've heard so many number of cattle dying in the western region, and in Karamoja there are crops that are being attacked by pests, the birds, for example, those ones in Kapchora. So when you talk about agriculture insurance, it encompasses the crops, the livestock, and everything that comes in that spirit.
Yeah, I mean, kind of mentioned pests earlier, and when you talk about the birds in capture, those are pests actually.
Yeah.
But somebody was defending them on television the other day. Said they should not kill those birds. Maybe soon they'll be defending mosquitoes as well. Newton, talk to us about this policy. Can you explain a little bit more in detail for us? How would it work? You said farmers can live ready for loans. How exactly would it work? Give us a scenario.
Thank you. I must say to our listeners that the first thing is that agriculture insurance is not going to resolve all their risks or all their problems that they are facing. What we are trying to do with this product, Kungla Agri Insurance, is simply to reduce the burden that has been carried over the years by our communal farmers. So what this product does basically is that it guarantees the farmer that what you have put in, if it fails, if there is crop failure, we shall come in to assist in terms of either paying you for the inputs that you put in. So let's say you had bought your seeds, you had bought your fertilizers, you had put your things on the ground, but it failed to germinate. The insurer will come in and say, you know what, don't worry, here's your money that you spent. And because you borrowed that money from the bank, you're able also to, yes, and there is interest that we take care of as well.
How about expected income?
Expected income, so insurance, the way it works, it tries to avoid speculation. So expected income, unless if we agree what we call agreed value policies from the beginning, where we are saying the market price of this maize or this cornflower we're going to sell is so much per kg. If it's agreed in advance, then we can use that as well as the sum insured or as the benchmark. But we try as much as possible in coming up with that sum insured to avoid unnecessary speculation.
So most times it is going to be a reimbursement.
Yes.
What is going to be seeds?
Right now, what we're trying to do is if you put in money to buy seeds and you put in money to buy your fertilizers, and part of that money came from the bank, what we're trying to do is to encourage the farmers to go into groups, so that the more you're in groups, the more you're in cooperatives, the more you're in small circles, kind of like cooperatives, yes. You sort of like gain some financial muscle to negotiate or to bargain with the financial institutions. More so when you say now our cooperative is insured in terms of let's say drought, the banks are more than willing then to come in and advance you money to buy your seeds and stuff like that. But the concern that farmers have is that if you pay me and I'm able to only get rid of the loan, what happens to my livelihood? Yeah, to my livelihood. I'm farming because I want to get food out of it. I want to send my kids to school. So what would happen after? That's why now you find that the policy has been done in such a way that it also takes into account expected market prices of various crops. But you don't come in and say, if the rest of the maize is 850 kg, you say mine is 1,500. That will not be accepted.
Mariam, would most farmers understand insurance? So are we going to see an insurance being provided to the big boys?
No, it's not only going to be provided to the big boys or whatever you're calling them. What the Insurance Regulatory Authority is encouraging the service providers. These are the insurance companies that are going to provide this particular product, agriculture insurance. They need to go down to the rural person. They need to go down. They need to move out of their offices and go down and explain, because this is the first product, the first agriculture insurance product we're having in Uganda. It's quite peculiar. It's new. It requires a lot of awareness, and as we start carrying out our awareness programs, we do encourage the service providers to go down and sensitize the farmers so that they understand it and appreciate and then take cover.
Well, you are a farmer yourself, I believe.
Yes.
You don't farm from your desk in Kampala.
I'm a serious farmer.
You do real crops.
Yes, and animals.
And animals. Do you think farmers will understand these things, insurance? They've not done it before.
Yes, they would understand it. 2 years ago, the Farmers Federation, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, and the UAP Insurance, kind of carried a pilot study to sensitize some farmers, and we moved in different districts, right from Kasese through central Uganda up to the north, to share with the farmers about this. And we were happy to see because the insurance company we had was able to explain to the farmers, and we were able to ask questions, encourage farmers to really ask and understand. Although we were mainly looking at the weather index insurance in particular, and we were glad that farmers really took interest, and I think they are able to understand. So, but this was done as a pilot, and we've not continued because, as my colleague has said, it is now that the policy has just been finalized, and I think they are yet to come into play to start offering the service. So I believe if we work with them, we as farmers organization, we work with the service providers, yes, farmers will understand it.
What policy would you take up yourself?
I think I would go for there are
you would wait a little bit, let us.
No, I wouldn't hesitate to take it up, but I would look at insuring. I said both.
You haven't thought about it, obviously.
No, I have. But if they can insure the animals, I tell you, like now, I have lost about 10 animals already.
Because of drought?
Yes. No water, no pasture. If I had insured them, probably I would didn't lose as much as this. But also, the crop farmers, I think, like the maize producers, the sugarcane outgrowers, those are some of the farmers that indicated a lot of interest in the product. And I believe that once it comes on board, they should be able to embrace it seriously. But basically, and you have some farmers who are organized in groups, as he said. Those ones seem to be more interested in these products than, of course, the individual farmers.
Well, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Let's take a break right now. We'll be back to discuss this topic even further.
If you watch Nigerian films, the way they name their movies, they use how the actress and the actor looks. If it's Genevieve and Ramsey Noah, 5 people, they'll call it Love Forever. But if it's Genevieve and Shego Arinze, you see the name, Could This Be Love?
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this show said what Basketman is going to be storming Kampala. Africa's biggest comedians are live on the same stage here in Kampala. From Nigeria, his first time in Uganda, Basketman Zimbabwe, Carol Joshua Kenya, Eric Omondi, Uganda, Patrick Salvador Dringi, Alex Mohanji, and Kasim Mendo 70. Music by Michael Huma, hosted by Dr. Mitchell Wang at Imperial Royal Hotel. 75,000 and 120,000 for a couple. African Last, August 9th is proudly brought to you by Rwanda, Appliance World, Venom, Nakumat, and
Tastefully different. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Officer, this time I'm going to throw away all my pangas and knives because you said they help in transmitting the banana bacterial Wills disease.
Take heart. If you've learned them, you can still use them. The banana bacterial Wills is transmitted by insects such as the stingless bees that visit male-birds to feed on sap that oozes out when the banana flower fall as the insects feed. They also bring in the bacteria that enter the banana plant through the wounds left behind when flowers fall. To stop the spread of insects, remove the male birds as soon as the last cluster is formed, whether you have the disease or not. Because removing the male bird using a pruning knife spreads the disease, use a fork stick.
This message is brought to you by National Agriculture Research Organization, NARO, together with National Agricultural Advisory Services, NADS.
Be the first to record from both the front and back camera at the same time. Be the first to listen to your photos. Be the first to print your albums from your phone directly. Be the first to control your phone by just waving your hand. Be the first to scroll using just your eyes. Be the first to own Samsung Galaxy S4. Get your Samsung Galaxy S4 from Airtel and enjoy 15 GB data valid over 3 months, 24 months warranty, and ADH cover valid for 24 months. Dial *175*2# to activate your bundle. Be the first to own it, only from Airtel.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. How relevant is insurance to the Ugandan agricultural sector, which is grappling with many human and natural bottlenecks? Our guests tonight, Mr. Jazire, Managing Director at Lion Assurance Company Limited, Mr. Gumisiriza, Lobby and Advocacy Officer at the Ugandan National Farmers Federation, and Ms. Mariam Nalunkuuma, Communications Officer at the Insurance Regulatory Authority. You will be able to call in and talk to us this very evening. Newton, talk to us about how you would insure animals, for instance. He just described a situation where he lost animals because there is no water to feed them and no pastures for them.
Thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, water is the most important input in any farming business, whether you're doing crop or you're doing livestock. So the example that Caleb is giving is clearly typical of why the insurers we have zeroed in on lack of water as a major issue, because pasture, if you look at the crop, the product that covers livestock, when the pasture turns from green to brown, that sort of like is correlated to the satellite reading, because if you look at the weather index insurance, the way it works, it tries to correlate the amount of rainfall required to keep the pasture good for the livestock, to the extent that they're able to peg it at such a level that once it surpasses that level and the livestock or animals start dying, then the insurers will start making payouts to to the insurers, to the farmers. And the good thing with weather index insurance is that you don't need to visit the farmers, like Caleb being one of the farmers. We don't go to his farm and say, how many cows have you lost? As long as the pasture reading has shown that the animals cannot be sustained at this level of rainfall, the insurers will be asked to pay, to make payouts as agreed on the policy schedules. Whatever some insured Caleb would have would then receive that payout. If Caleb then goes to town and buy water, for example, to try and sustain his animals, that's his extra expenses, and trying to go into those negotiations is another business altogether. So what we do, whether he has sustained his animals or not, and the pasture reading corresponds with satellite reading, we pay out accordingly. So the main things we are covering for animals is really lack of rainfall, lack of enough water in the pasture, to the issue of diseases. But diseases, obviously, it comes in with one of the important things that I want our listeners out there to understand, that insurance comes in terms of betterment of management practices in the farming business. Why do I say that? When we come in as insurers, there are certain things as a farmer that you have to do and that you're expected to do before we insure you. For example, if you are supposed to vaccinate your animals at a certain level, at a certain stage of their life, you have to do it at that level. If we expect a cow to live for 7 years and you want to keep yours for 15 years, we are not going to insure you for a 15-year-old cow. There are certain standards or practices that are acceptable to the insurers. So by coming in as insurers, we're also sort of like improving the management practices in the various farms, whether someone is doing cropping or doing livestock.
So in structural terms, what are you going to do in senior offices? You need hire experts, create new departments for agriculture, fewer officers, and all the works.
What we have done already is the structure is already there, headed by an agronomist. Fortunately, the agronomist has been involved in insurance as well, so she understands insurance and the issues.
That's at Lion Assurance.
That's at Lion Assurance specifically. But remember, the product we have launched is supported by 6 underwriters or 6 insurers. So this management team we have put together is representing Lion and the partners. So it's not
6 insurance companies here.
Yes, 6 insurance companies in Uganda. Yes.
So 6 companies have taken it up.
Yes, 6 companies have taken it up.
As a pilot thing or what?
Of course, I would say yes as a pilot, because it's not going to be rolled out to every individual farmer. It's going to be specifically for particular districts, and as we learn our experiences in those areas, then we expand it to other regions or other other districts, but most of the districts are covered. We know the agricultural zones that Caleb was talking about that ended on paper. In terms of our policy, we are using those ones strictly. If you're in an area,
paper-based zones.
Yes.
You know, here we make very good documents and then go home and do other things.
Those paper zones, those paper-based zones he's talking about were done based on some research and some factual information. But I'm sure what he meant by it remained on paper is that it was not implemented.
Yes.
But those zones are real, and the livestock was sort of like belt was identified, which crops do well in which area were identified. So if you're in an area where we should be doing maize and you want to do sunflower or something else, we will not be able to cover you, because we shall make sure that we advise farmers to do what they're supposed to do in a particular region or in a particular area. So it's not about you deciding, me, I'm just going to do beans even if this area is not good for beans. Then that will not be covered by insurance.
So you're going to help government do these things, put them out eventually.
Yes.
Here we write a lot of nice policies and then go home and do other things. We don't many, you know. I'll say that. Mariam, I'd like you to talk to us about a little bit the implications for the industry, what it will mean for the industry.
What it will mean for the industry. Just to add, before I go into what it will mean to the industry, for clarity, it is not the understanding between these 6 insurance companies is on their own. But as a regulator, we understand that other insurance players have also come up with proposals which we have approved, and others we're still looking at them. So it is not only these 6 insurance companies that are going to be providing
taken the lead.
This. Yes, they've taken the lead, but it does not mean that a farmer is only going to look at them alone. Some farmers have their individual players that they've been working with, and they are coming out to also provide this product. And what
so how many insurance companies have it?
So far we have 6. The 6.
He's already told us about
yes,
6. You said there are more. Which
there is Jubilee. Jubilee is also coming on board.
Jubilee, yes. Lion.
Jubilee, Lion,
UAP,
Nico. We have First Insurance Company, APA. Yeah. So at least
the top 6, the big ones. Is anyone providing some big amount of money, EADP or whatever, some funder somewhere to help this kick off?
The arrangement these insurance companies, the 6, the arrangement they're having is more like a core insurance, where they're going to share the risk, and whichever business that will be coming in, whichever
one company, it's one pool of
it's like a pool, yeah. So if Edmond has made a loss for his farm, they will share the risk and they will share the settlement of the claim. It's not going to be an individual company that is going to be doing that. That's from their side. However, they are also getting support from international reinsurance company, which is Swiss Re. This has done a lot in agriculture insurance, and they have a lot of experience. They are providing a lot of expertise and advice, because they have given the same advice to Kenya, where it is working.
Right.
Yeah. So
Edmond as a farmer, maybe in another life, maybe I'll become a farmer when I come back. Caleb, talk to us about water harvesting. Why do people not harvest water in this country? We have a lot of rainfall. I was talking to someone, an expert, he said if it rains once and you have a good size pond, you can have enough water to run for the whole year. Why don't we harvest this rainwater?
Sure, I think it is more about attitude. And because
we think rain is in plenty, God will always provide.
Will always be there. So the attitude is not changing, and it has become a problem. Otherwise, it is possible, as you are saying, to harvest water and store it to take you through the dry season to the next season. Except, of course, when you have extreme cases, like when the drought is prolonged and it's beyond normal. But also the equipment for excavating these dams and that whatever, they are not readily available in many areas.
No, but government can provide. But you can still, a small farm should be able to provide its own dam. They can use handheld hose to
do some
of
that actually most of the farmers have done that, but so you have to the end.
And then have small pumps to pump the water. It costs maybe 1 million shillings, maybe 500,000 shillings to pump the water.
Even less than that. But excavating picketing using a hand hoe is what people are using.
But people did pick latrines, so you should be able to actually do it. You don't need high-level technology.
They are doing it, but then they are small kind of, these are small wells, so it's still a challenge. And the government, of recent, bought equipment and put them at the districts. But again,
for all the districts, or if you,
they are supposed to cover all the districts, but they have not. They are still rolling out. But most of the districts have got this equipment, and
with spare parts and experts.
Yeah, the spare parts are lacking, by the way, because some districts actually.
You have a problem of maintenance, mostly in Africa. Yes. We don't maintain things.
Yes,
so
some
you have a nice tractor. 3 months later, it's broken down.
Some
you never use it.
Already are complaining less than 1 year down the road. And they are telling us spare parts are not there, but also some of these districts are misusing the equipment.
What do they use it for?
Like uprooting trees, which they are not supposed
to be. Which is not bad.
Yes, but the kind of machinery they gave them is not of that capacity. So that kind of thing is they are complaining that it is also damaging them very fast.
So this water harvesting, what can you tell farmers on the national scale? They can still do. They don't need to wait for government.
There are other water harvesting technologies we are promoting as a farmers organization.
Like what?
For instance, tapping the water from the house roofs, and you construct simple tanks, or using polythene. What do you call them?
Polythene sheeting. You can dig a pit and have polythene sheeting cover it.
You dig, and that one you store it. You don't use it. You wait for the dry season. In the meantime, during the rain season, we encourage them to continue using the water from the ponds, from the wells. Then when the dry season sets in and the other one is running out, then you come to this stored water. That's one of the technologies we are trying to promote. But the solution indeed is to have these large valley dams, either communal, for people who don't have large acres of land, or if you have a large acreage of land, then you could have it on your farm.
How about fertilizer? We don't seem to see, we seem to think our soils are fertile forever. People don't like to use fertilizer.
Yes. The way forward is, what are we doing? We people who are doing extension, are we advising the farmers appropriately? And that's why I said, for instance, government through its agencies like NADS need really to tell the farmers the truth, that the soils have run out of their fertility, we must use fertilizers. We are trying to promote the use of fertilizers in some, of course we start from one end to another, but this message seems to be sinking, but at a very slow pace. Again, the attitude of an ordinary farmer is not that, or is easy to change.
Newton, talk to us about these weather predictions. They're very unreliable. What are we going to do about that? What are you going to do? You could run up huge losses. They tell you it's going to rain and you don't see it for days.
Yes, I'm sure that's why we're saying insurance is coming in as a risk management tool. In other words, we are coming in to mitigate the impact of the drought or the lack of rainfall that might occur. And it's not only lack of rainfall, it's also over rainfall, like we witnessed in Kasese. But what we are saying is that as insurance, we peg our limits, what we call our sums insured. It's not like we are going to just come in and
what do you call it?
Sorry?
What do you call it, your sums insured? What?
Sum insured is like the amount you've insured your cows or your crops for. So for example, his cows, Caleb's cows, he can decide each cow is $1 million, and if he's got 10 cows, then it means he's insured for 10 million.
How much would he pay to get that cow?
Of course, the rest we are talking about now are 3 to 5% depending on the region. Why I say depending on the region is it's also the pattern of the rainfall or the weather or the climate in those regions are different. If you go to the west, if you go to the north, if you go to the east, the pattern is is totally different. So that's why each region would then attract a different rate, and depending on the history. Because for insurers, what we simply do is that we don't just thumbsuck the rates. We have actuarial
evaluate them depending
on the pattern and the historical data available in those areas, which is now available. You know, the challenge we have had before is that we could not read simple things like rainfall received in Kasese. We could not read because there are not enough weather stations. But now that has been resolved, the issue of satellite technology, which has come in to assist us and to enable us to launch this product.
Mariam, how much more can government do, specifically on this issue of advisories? Well, we used to have district farmer agricultural officers. I don't know if we still have them. What can government do to help this agriculture get off its hind feet?
What I think is, I think government or the advisory service, what it needs to do is to get down to the farmers. We've experienced so many people complaining that the services are not going down to the farmers. So I think what needs to be done is have the services go down to the people, not to particular say local leaders, because one thing we've always seen is they get a particular person, they say this is a NADS model farmer, and yet this person is really not the model farmer. So
what do you mean the person is not a model farmer?
He's not a model farmer, he's not a NADS person. But if these services go down, trickle down to the farmers, then I think the advisory services will be good.
Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. How relevant is insurance to the Ugandan agricultural sector? Our number is 041-4348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then go straight to the point you like to raise. Some few questions that came in. Ronald Mutevi asks, one of the major challenges farmers face is agricultural financing. Is the insurance industry ready to provide funds under this package? Joshua Biaruhanga, how do you decide the amount to be paid by a farmer to be insured? Jane Nabuma, can you provide insurance for those involved in agricultural business, that is selling produce?
Thank you. I'll start with Ronald. Ronald is saying the insurer is going to provide a fund for the farmers. Not directly. The insurers are only going to create the collateral that the farmers are lacking at the moment to enable them access funds from the banks and the microfinance institutions. That's why you find that we are working with banks and microfinance institutions to provide this product, and the farmer organizations, of course.
And Joshua, so how do you decide the amount to be paid by a farmer to be insured? You've given us some guidelines on that, but
yes. To respond to the caller, what I would say is that the way we decide the sum insured is very simple. If it's for crops, we look at the average price per kg of a particular crop, and that's what you use to compute based on what we expect as average yield per acre or per hectare that you're doing. So that's basically what we use. And for livestock, it's the same thing. If you're doing cattle, we look at how much one cow is, or the average market price of a cow in that particular region, because the price could be different from the west, from Nakasongola, from Mbale. So you look at that region and say, what is the average market price for this? The advantage that comes in, of course, is the size of the cow doesn't matter. Once you now start doing insurance, we're not going to say this one weighs 100 kgs, this one, otherwise it becomes administratively difficult for the insurers to give insurance.
A cow is a cow.
A cow is a cow. We want the number you have, and we want to know the records and whether these things have been vaccinated, proper management has been done, and you're insured.
So you provide evidence of vaccination?
Yes. We are going to have officers on the ground checking that those things have been vaccinated.
On motorcycles?
Yes.
Riding up the hills?
Yeah.
Jane Nabuma asks, can you provide insurance for those involved in agriculture business, selling produce, for instance?
There's a lot of people already insured. If you look at the warehousing, the receipt system that the warehouse guys are having in Jinja, for example, we're already insuring people in the the agro supply chain already. There's some people who can't operate without insurance. If you look at the Warehouse Act in Uganda, for example, a warehouse cannot operate without insurance because if there are
risks against fire,
yes, and the fire destroys the grain, what would the warehouse do? So they will not allow a warehouse to operate without insurance. So yes, some insurance is already being provided to people participating in the agro supply chain.
Caleb, can you talk to us about some gaps that the insurance industry is living out, is exposing? Areas that they're not addressing that you think they really should be moving into?
I think right now,
so far so good.
No. There is a lot of gap because, as he has indicated, they are just coming into it, start really operating. Of course, as he said, they are covering some areas, but then we are seeing at production level, for instance, not much is being done at production. They are already in ensuring, for instance, the traders and whatever, but the production level,
the actual farmer.
Well,
they have to start somewhere. They have started with this place, then now they're coming to you.
Yeah, so that's a gap I am identifying that it needs now to be looked into seriously. But he has allayed my fears because I was looking at our ineffective and inadequate weather stations that are not functioning. In some places you go to weather station, there is not even someone operating it, either because he is not being paid or the machinery or equipment is not working, such things. But he has allayed my fears by saying they are now going to use the satellite. But also I'm looking at, I don't know how many banks, that's a concern we have, how many banks have you interested in this, because I believe that you are going to have
okay, we've got a caller. Let's get him here. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name?
My name is Susan.
Yes, Susan.
And I happen to work in a bank. That's why I'm very interested in today's discussion. We've had to turn away, or rather take a dim view on a few applicants whose assets were considered uninsurable. Who is doing aquaculture, and you can't value the fingerlings in the pond or the expected yield. And then there are those who are into forestry, but this tree called